I think that brings up a good point about like understanding like where your exits are when you are going to a restaurant or going to the wherever you're parking or any establishment.
Hey everybody, it's great to be back. I love being back in our studio.
I love our studio, yeah.
Took a few weeks off because we had so many episodes that we recorded from YWLS.
We took a few weeks off of being in the studio.
Yes, in studio, but now we're back. Our studio.
And things are good. We had a great run at YWLS with all our awesome guests. So if you haven't listened to those, make sure you go back to listen to them. I mean, we really had so many great guests. We always have great guests, but this is
a wide variety of different topics, from hormone conversations, hormone health to breathing,
nervous system discussions, all the way to like talking to Riley Gaines just about what she went through with, competing against
Leah Thomas.
Thomas, like just a lot. And then, of course, we got to catch up with some friends, which is always fun to do when we're at YWLS.
Yes, but we're back, and we are excited today because we thought that it would be fun and a good idea. It's been a little while since we've done a back to basics safety conversation. And what I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed this too, there's a huge trend going on right now on social media, a lot on TikTok, of women that are seeking out these types of tips and this information. So we wanted to just make sure that we are putting it out there. We are being a good resource. And that as people are starting to search for these, if you've got a friend that's asking you questions, please share the episode with them. Please link and share that with them so that they can get the information in a concise, great way.
Right. Because I think like it's important that, for those of you that have been following, listening to us, we're now 4 seasons in. Like, so we talk about a wide range of things, and when we have guests on, and sometimes we talk about things that are a little bit more harder to hear about the realities of what's really happening out there. But what I think is very important is, like Amy said, is we need to get back to basics and talk about just some really simple safety tips that I know for those of you that are already in this personal safety mindset, you're going to probably think, I already know that, I already do that. But one, it never hurts to hear it again, because we get so caught up in our daily lives that like you can easily forget to lock your door, things like that. So I just, it's important for us to make sure that we're always putting out this information. And as simple as some of you may think it is, you have to also understand there are some people who don't even know, who've never been told any of these things.
This walking without your earbuds is revolutionary to some people.
Yes. I don't understand it.
I know.
I just want to shake them.
I know. They're bonkable.
Right. So what prompted this is, we all know that crime is on a rise everywhere in all the cities and wherever you live, but it's not even so much, threat to like your personal life crime, like murder, assault.
That is on the rise in Dallas as well.
But this, like, what we're seeing and what I'm seeing a lot of, especially, looking at different apps and things like that, is the basic crimes of the gas station robbery, of stealing your purse outside of your passenger car, or when you're loading groceries in, stealing your purse. Just like
petty crime?
Yeah, I was going to say it's like petty theft.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
But when it's happening to you, it doesn't feel
it's not
petty.
petty at all.
It doesn't feel small. It feels very violating.
That is a violating attack and assault is what it feels like. So, we have a list of things we want to talk about when it comes to basic safety, but I'm sure you guys probably have known or heard somebody that had something very simple. Things happen like that. And one of the recent ones is like a gas station attack where this woman in Dallas was getting gas in her car. And this happens all the time. She was getting gas in her car. She deliberately put her purse under or tucked under the passenger side. She got out and then she heard like tires screeching. So she went to see what that was and then realized that someone had stolen her purse. Oh. And she had taken the measures to put it under, like tuck it under her seat. She did not lock her passenger door. But that happens. That's what I mean. You get caught up in your daily things that you forget simple things like that. But once she called the police, and the police, I guess, got footage from the gas station, what she found was she thought it was one car. It was actually 2 cars. The screeching one was the distraction. So the car was like screeching off onto the street. She, looked away to that car while the second person, the lookout or whomever, was stealing her items. And it's just like, that is.
And luckily it ended there with just a theft. And I think that is when we talk about this, we're talking about, not even worst case scenario, but some of these crimes that are deemed petty crimes could escalate beyond that.
Yep.
And so what do we do to make ourselves harder targets, to make ourselves, as best we can, put ourselves in situations and do things that could potentially lead us to not be the victim of this and hopefully not escalate. I remember we had Tracy Waldorf. Any of you remember that episode? She was the former CIA and FBI agent.
Badass.
And yes. And while she, of course, has a lot of extensive training with firearms, and she's not a proponent of you carrying a firearm. I don't think she personally carries a firearm every day. But one piece of information that she said that I found very valuable was the firearm is not the end all be all. And we would agree with that on this show. While this is the Not Your Average Gun Girls podcast, we acknowledge and understand that there are several steps and things that we should all be doing prior to ever having to pull our self-defense tool. Because a self-defense tool may not, pulling a gun on someone stealing your purse may not be the best answer. If your life is not being threatened and your life is not in jeopardy, then that's not the option.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of people too is when you look at some of these reports of people saying, crime is high or this happened to me, I see people commenting back on saying, oh, well, you need to get a gun. And my thought is, well, no, I don't think that is not the solution here, because there are other things that need to happen before you even get a gun. But pulling the gun in that situation was going to do what? You know what I mean? It's I think a lot of people don't understand that their immediate thought is self-defense, get a gun, and all of a sudden you're saved. It's no, you have, we talk about this being a lifestyle and a mindset. You have to be all in for that. So going back to that situation of the simple things of you have to be cognizant and be aware and say, okay, I'm getting gas or I'm getting out of my car, going and lock your doors. Lock your doors. And I know that some cars have a feature. I know in my car has a feature that when I use the key fob to unlock it, I can, I have a setting so it only unlocks the driver's side. It does not unlock the passenger doors. I have to hit the unlock twice if I want to let a passenger in.
You're going to have to show me that feature because I did not know that.
Yes.
And we have the same car. Well, maybe that's you have the newer version. So maybe I didn't have that in my version of the car, but
that's so of course, Ben gets annoyed when he goes to get in. I'm I haven't unlocked your side yet. Not on it.
Look around, be aware.
But that's a simple, I feel that is, while it can be kind of annoying, in that situation, but it's one of those things that the only way you're getting into your car is through your driver's side, and the other ones stay locked. Until you're in and secure. And then another thing I would say is a lot of people, because we walk to our car, we're running errands, is the earbuds, the phone, just stay off your phone. Well,
that's what I was going to say. Let's talk through simple first line of defense things that we can do to make yourself a hard target, because these are applicable no matter how old you are, no matter what state you live in, whether or not you ever choose to carry a firearm. Maybe that will never be your self-defense tool of choice, and that's okay. And maybe you can't carry a gun yet. Maybe you're not at that age. So what can every single one of us be doing in the interim until we get to that point where we choose to carry a self-defense tool? There are things that we can do. So you mentioned one of them was the earbuds.
Right. The earbuds and getting off your phone. I'm always a broken record about these things. Just don't be on your phone when you're out in public.
Meaning don't be looking down, head down, not paying attention.
Don't be walking to your car texting somebody. It's not
Forget the fact that you could get run over by a car. You could, someone could come up and bonk you on the head without you ever knowing they came.
I've told the story before of being in DC, and I literally watched a girl walk right into a pole because her head was down in the front. I kid you not, I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. And I thought to myself, so people really do just walk into a pole because they're not paying attention.
Oh yeah, we've seen it.
That's that is so basic. You could just trip on your own. So it's you don't want that to happen. But then you also want to make sure that, as Amy said, you are being a hard target. And being a hard target means that you are paying attention to your surroundings. Because what people are looking for, what these criminals are looking for is they're looking for soft targets. They're looking for the people that are easy, the people who aren't paying attention, the people who are distracted. And you being with your head down on your phone is you being distracted, not being able to see or hear if someone is around you. And with the earbuds, you don't need to have your earbuds in. I know like Apple and all the Bluetooth has made it so easy that you can just, throw them in your ear and your phone can be in your pocket and you can go about your business and listen to your music, your podcast. But we will give you a pass of not listening to our podcast while you're out in public so you can be more safe.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And I think, so the big ones that come to my mind, confidence projection. This is something that every single one of us can work on and can make sure that we're doing. So I remember taking a class I took a self-defense class when I was at A&M, and that was one of the biggest things that they told us was make yourself seem bigger. Walk with your shoulders straight. And I love this because they even said to constantly be looking around. And if you see people in the parking lot, especially if it's darker at nighttime and you're walking and there doesn't seem to be a lot of people around, but you see one person in the parking lot, even if they're across the parking lot, make your presence be known. Say hi, make eye contact, project confidence, even if you're not feeling it. And I think I see this a lot, especially with younger girls who still just aren't completely sure of themselves and they don't have that confidence yet, but it's a great exercise to walk with your head up, walk with your shoulders back, that hopefully they bypass you and they look for somebody else that doesn't look like they are going to put up a fight. If something were to happen.
Like some people call it like having a command presence. Like I know leadership, I've seen it. I've read about it in like leadership books about management style and things like that, about how like when you walk into the room, you want to project that confidence, having that command presence in your posture and your tone shows that you have some kind of authority, and that transfers into your everyday life when you are running your errands or doing whatever you're doing. Is if you are walking with that command presence, you have posture, you have that general demeanor that you are aware of what's going on. You are going to be passed over for someone else who is heads down in their phone, not paying attention. Who technically is the softer target. And I read something real quick that I thought was put in a very simple way, which I think is we can all remember, is like, even if you do your best, you can still be a target for those that live that life of evil. And that's the thing, like we are always practicing being self-reliant, situational awareness, but even if we do our best, we can still.
Well, that's where the backup tool comes in play. Like
that's our backup training, and all those things come into play.
And that's the point of, why we're so big on having multiple tools in your toolbox, because there are evil people that will skip several steps in the process of picking their victim and their target, and they'll just go straight to, they don't think the same way. There could be something off in their brain that is, removing that process of choosing a target, and they're just going to go straight for whoever's right there.
Exactly.
And you can't plan for that, and you can't always assess what that person looks like. And so having that backup tool, whatever it is, and the training to be able to assess, where is the situation going? Is this escalating to a point where I do feel like mace isn't going to work and I do need a fight? Where is this going? Unless you have that training behind you to really work through those scenarios, you find yourself in a position where you're caught without a tool. And we just don't want that. We don't want that to happen, obviously. So, these first line of defense, confidence projection, limiting the distractions with your earbuds. I also like the idea of taking the sorry out of your voice, taking the hesitation out of your voice. And that is something that we could all be working on, especially as women.
Don't be afraid to use your voice.
Don't be afraid to speak loud. Again, that comes with that confidence projection. But if that's something that you're struggling with, stand in that mirror, please, sir, don't come any closer. Please don't. Please back up. Please back up.
Be firm in your stance.
Take the please out of your voice. Take the sorry out of your voice. And if you need to stand in front of your mirror and practice just saying back up as many times as you need to, that is going to help you in so many other areas of your life as well, not just in self-defense, but like taking out that apologetic nature out of your voice to where you just present this air of confidence is going to help you, like you said, in so many other areas as well, but definitely when it comes to your safety. So what else have we got on there?
Planning your route in advance. So I used to do this a lot living in DC because I walked everywhere. If I knew I needed to go somewhere, I mean, I did this when we first moved here just because I didn't know the area. So I'm like, I need to go to run an errand to wherever, let's just say Target. I'm like, well, I don't even really know where the Target is. Let me look at where it is. Is there a different way that I can go? Like even in DC, I'm like, well, where's this coffee shop or where's this store? Like know your route ahead of time. Just so when you're going there, you're not questioning the way you have to go. Like I know we all have GPS and things like that, but I think knowing that ahead of time kind of gives you just kind of a leg up of having a little bit more confidence because you know the direction and where you have to go. Yep. And then we were talking about, like running errands, but like, let's talk about the grocery store, for instance. And like this happens a lot when, I see this a lot in the grocery store when, you're in your buggy, your shopping cart and women either put their phone or their purse in the what is it, the baby part of it where you put your kid in, and then they're like over picking out like their food, and I'm just
found myself doing that.
Anybody want a phone?
Anyone want to take my
here? Yep. Like so, either use a crossbody bag, wear your Alexos, just try to get out of that habit of putting your purse down and leaving it.
Unless you really just don't care if that purse gets stolen or not.
I don't know why you would.
I know.
But like then that also translates. So as you're leaving the grocery store and then you have to load up your car and having to figure out, well, you not only have like your babies you got to load in your car, then you have to put your groceries in your car, and you're doing this, most of the time like by yourself because, most people can't just go to the grocery store as a family. And I think sometimes you have to go with your children. You
do. And that's something that I personally have found challenging to how do I get my kids in their car seats because you have to turn your back. I mean, like you're fighting a screaming child who does not want to get into that car. Like there's so many inherent distractions that it's been really hard. So one thing, I don't know if this was just by, providence that this happened, but I was putting my kids in the car and it just so happened that I had my buggy positioned. Okay. If you can imagine, I've got two cars on the side of me. Your door is open, so you basically close the space and gap between you and the car that's next to you. And then I positioned the buggy far enough away that created a gap and a barrier between anyone that wanted to walk up. Is that making sense? Yeah. So it gave me a little bit more peace of mind. So
you're basically in the opening of your door.
Yes, I'm in the opening of my door, and I was like, if anyone were to come up to me at this point, at this distance, they would have to stop and they have a barrier to get around. So it gives me a little bit more time. If anything, I just want to create time and space for myself. And also I would hope that I would hear them if they're like trying to move the buggy while I'm distracted with my kids. So that I had never really thought of that before, like creating barriers around you. And that was something that helped me. So I love getting tips. I mean, this is something that moms are going to.
So when you, just out of curiosity, because you have two kids, if they both come with you to the store, which I'm sure is probably a lot. I don't know the last time I took by myself both kids to the store, but I am sure there are women that have to do this. Women load their groceries with their kids just out of pure, just like,
so my car has a setting that if I were to get the two kids in the car first. So one thing that I do is I, let my son, I'll open one door to get my daughter in. And I actually just let my son, he's 3, he just crawls over. So I'm not having to go around the car. But so I let him crawl through. I let him crawl through. I typically will get her in place.
So you give priority to the youngest.
Yes. And usually just because she's harder to get into the car. I don't really know my thought process on that, but I just to get her in. And then, so we've got a cool feature when they're in the car and then I open up the back, it locks all the other doors.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not worried about somebody opening up those doors while I'm
you're loading.
unloading
Okay.
groceries in the back. And then I typically have not locked him in his car seat yet. So, but the car's not running. So I'm just like, hey, sit there. And he sits there, and then I go and get him like strapped in. So groceries are in, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think through.
I can't imagine having to
There are moms that have to do it. And that's another reason why, if my kids are with me, it is imperative that I have my firearm with me, because we're not talking anymore about, there is no petty theft if someone's going to grab my kid.
No.
Like you have escalated
Game's
this
over.
and game's over. So like if I'm going to be out with my kids, will have my firearm with me as like a backup. So, but I'm always curious. If you guys have tips on what you do, would love to hear it. Drop a note and let us know.
DM us. We want to hear. We want to hear all that, because I think getting to that point is also, we always go about it, is where situational awareness and being aware of your surroundings come in, is before you get to that point is just giving a quick scan to see, do you notice anything off?
Yeah.
Another good tip is GPS. And setting your home location. So I go back to DC because I left DC because I was over it. There's a few things that like I miss and I think about now that were like really beneficial because I lived in a building. Yep. So when I gave my address, I could have been coming out of the building, an office, a restaurant. So I didn't really think too much about giving over an address to an Uber driver. However, now I question it. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have a car now, but I still, Uber places. So one of the things, it may not be feasible for everyone depending on where you live or how your house is set up, it is having them pick you up a couple houses down. Mm-hmm. Sure, it's still in the vicinity, but it's not your exact house. And then speaking of Uber, there are also several safety features within the Uber app that you can enable on StompMeTactical.com. I have a post about Uber safety tips that will link, but you can now ask, have the driver set up so the driver has to ask you a PIN that is provided in your
I know, I love that. Actually, I read that article when I was traveling and I went through line by line. I was like, okay, check. Okay, done. Very helpful article.
Right. And then, so, I think you should, I love that companies like this are starting to implement more of these type of safety features. So you should definitely take advantage of them if you are using Uber or any kind of ride share. But then speaking of GPS, I know we all use GPS to get home and to and from locations, but we all know like where we live. Unless you're brand new to your house, you still don't know the area. But once you know the area, you know how to get there. So if you're using GPS, whether it be on your phone or the navigation system in your car, do cars even still have those? I feel like everyone just uses their phone now. I don't know.
I think it does, but I just plug up my CarPlay.
Yeah. Right. So instead of putting in your home location, put it in a location, again, that's like right by your neighborhood that for instance, if you live next to whatever, the Starbucks, just put in the Starbucks. Because once you get to that area, you know how to get home.
So why would that be beneficial to have it in your phone?
Anyone steals your phone. They're not having, access to your home address. If you're because I know sometimes people also put it into like rental cars and things like that. So it's just kind of not giving out that information and preventing.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah.
Once
that's why I rely on her. She thinks through a lot of things for me. I like to think I'm a safety guru, but not as much as her. So
yeah, mine gets a little probably borders more a little paranoid, I think.
Emily comes to my house and she's checking the thickness of the glass on our like back door, like window. Not really, but
yet. But I think I can get there. And then I think one of the other things is like parking in well-lit areas. I feel like, again, like simple, but it's just one of those things. Like opt to park in a well-lit area if you can. Like there are options. I know a lot of people want the convenience of either the closed space or whatever space and things like that. But at the same time, if it seems shady or if you don't feel comfortable, then you need to just cut bait and like either park somewhere else, go somewhere else, or avoid it altogether, because it goes back to like you need like trusting your gut.
Trust your gut. Speaking of parking, so this hit me the other day. I've been parking more in parking garages. I've been going to downtown Dallas a lot more, and I hate parking garages. I hate feeling like I'm trapped in. Mm-hmm. They're dark. They're not well lit. They're usually like pretty empty.
Yep.
And so like, I tried to avoid parking garages as much as possible, but sometimes you just can't if you can't find street parking.
Of course.
So I was driving around and around and I said, I intentionally had to drive like 3 more rows up because I wanted to be as close to the elevator
Yep.
as I possibly could. Because I was thinking in my head, if I park far away and there was a scenario that I couldn't get out of here, where's the staircase? Where's the elevator? I don't want to be caught looking around and wandering around this parking garage. And, so I wanted, and usually the elevators are typically better lit, but just having an access point and a reference point to easily identify your car and find it very quickly, and also find your exit point if you were to notice that something seems off. I did not want to be caught looking around and finding it. So I was trying to park as close as I could to that elevator and, have a way to either get out. So if I'm like stepping off the elevator and I'm looking around, I can get back on and get out of there, or knowing where the staircase is to get out of there. And then,
I think that brings up a good point about like understanding like where your exits are when you are going to a restaurant or going to wherever you're parking or any establishment. Like making a mental note in your head. There is besides the way you got into the establishment is there another one in the back? Do I mentally say, oh yeah, there's an exit to the left? Because there's something to be said for kind of talking to yourself and making that mental note in your head that under pressure that you will be able to kind of revert back to that.
Yep.
And I think with like the parking garages and the elevators, that's like a huge thing. I used to think like all those, like put little graphics or icons to like know what like level or row you're on. I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh, those are dumb. But like now, if it's a busy parking garage and that's my only option, and I know that it can be confusing, I quickly snap a picture of the pillar, and then before I leave where I'm going, if I can't remember, I check it and then tell myself what it is. So as I'm walking, I don't have to check my phone, and I know that I can get right to my.
Whoop. Well, and don't underestimate. Do you walk with your fob in your hand for the security feature, just in case?
For my car fob.
Yeah, like if you're walking through a garage or
no, typically, because if I'm in a garage, I usually am like trying to be hands free because I'm carrying something. Yeah, and then like with our car. Yeah. Like if I walk up to it, it'll unlock the driver door, so I don't have to. But
what about the alarm? Because
yes, I usually don't. Yeah, I usually just don't. It's not. Never.
I didn't think about that until I did that training in Orlando, and they were like, use your fob, use the alarm. If something seems off, do it. And if it's loud enough, people don't want to bring attention to.
I need to see what mine sounds like. I don't know what it sounds like.
You go like practice it and see it. But I'm like, if it's loud enough, it could provide it just enough distraction for that person to walk away. And they don't want to bring attention to themselves or what's about to happen. So, I thought that was a very interesting like little tip. So
right, exactly. I think, what we talk about here is, it's like I said, it's like, it's simple, it's basic, but one of the questions that I feel like we get a lot too is like, how can I get my daughter to start being aware, starting to understand her safety? And I think, what we've talked about here is a very, easy way to start kind of understanding, that you have to start doing these things. When I was like the simplest thing, and I really think that this kind of like shaped me into being more prepared and thinking about my personal safety, is back when we had payphones, my mom always had like 4 quarters in this little like, I don't know, whatever, change purse that was in my backpack. And it was like, you can't use this
emergency.
For candy.
Yeah.
It's if you have to make a phone call home, like this is for emergency. There was always like something like it was for an emergency. And I think it's things like that you just need to start talking to your kids about and getting into that mindset. And also one of the things I think too is like when you are with your kids, you can start playing kind of mental like games or spotting games when you're in the car with them. Oh, who saw that sign? What was that guy wearing? Things like that. And I think playing through, what I like to do a lot is when I'm out walking around, is kind of run through just my own personal scenarios of, oh, I'm going to my car. Well, what if somebody was, I heard somebody coming, what would I do? And just start thinking of it. Cause I think that has the biggest impact, to start thinking of asking yourself that question, what would I do if? Because those questions, like when you have to actually answer that question and figure out how you're going to answer that question, whether it be with, knowledge, what you can do physically, or if you're going to have to rely on a self-defense tool, like then you start kind of going down that path, and it starts snowballing into this, I really need to take this seriously, because, these things are happening, and we never, I see a lot of things, on social media about when people are sharing about safety or these tips, and there's always somebody in the comments talking about, you're trying to like scare us, and that's not the case at all. It's really, sadly, this is reality of the world that we live in, and all we want and all we've ever wanted, and why we both started our separate brands and then have come together with the podcast, is to help bring awareness to you, to help you be, as safe as possible, and bringing you this information. So we think it's, so important that, you take this information and take it in and start putting it to practice in your daily life. Because what we've given you today isn't anything major.
No, it's anything earth shattering. And really, if you found a tip helpful that you haven't been practicing, let us know. Like, what are your takeaways from this episode that you can start doing today? Can you start walking with your shoulders a little bit higher? Can you start at least making a mental note of that as you walk out your door? Can you start, looking around a little bit more? Can you maybe change the setting in your Google? Just do one actionable step out of this episode, and then shoot us a message and let us know what you did.
Right.
Because that's really all we want. This is little. I'm not going to expect you to do every single one of these tomorrow, but if you can just start taking little steps forward and sharing these tips with your friends and your family members, you never know whose life you could be potentially saving.
Exactly. And then if you guys have some great tips that we didn't cover we want to hear them.
We want to hear them.
Comment on the YouTube video. We want to hear them so we can continue to spread and share this information. So
I think that was awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys joining in. If you have not done so yet, please subscribe. Please like the podcast. If you're going to watch it on YouTube, it will help us out a ton. If you will thumbs up and leave us a comment on there. I don't know what it is, but I don't think YouTube loves our show. So it doesn't get as much love as it could be. So we would really appreciate if you do watch the episode. Please drop a comment of something that you like and liked it. And then if you have not subscribed yet on iTunes or Spotify or any of those platforms, please go ahead and do that as well, because it really helps out the show so we can continue to bring you guys awesome information.
Until next time.
Not Your Average Gun Girl Show and its related companies, Alexo Athletica LLC and Stami Tactical LLC, shares information that may potentially have legal implications for its listeners. A reminder that laws vary for each state, and we encourage listeners to seek local legal advice to understand applicable laws. Any items, services, products, and advice mentioned during the Not Your Average Gun Girl Show should be used at your own discretion in accordance with your local and state laws, and you should follow applicable manufacturer's instructions. Not Your Average Gun Girls, Alexo Athletica LLC, and Stami Tactical LLC cannot be held liable for your actions based on the information shared.